You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Episode number 218 of the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com arrives to you today. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Tyler.
No planned intro. That was the best I could do.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was very contrite. Where it was just like, here we are, and hello.
This is the show that we do.
Yeah.
You know, it worked out. But hey, welcome in. We're talking all things minor league baseball. My name is Tyler Mon. Sam Dykstra is in New York City, and we're ready to roll on this. We're recording on July 17th. We're post futures game. We're post first halves in full season leagues. We are post Major League and AAA All-Star game. Like, we are getting down to the nitty-gritty of the second half dog days, as they say. And thanks for tuning in this week. You can get us anywhere you find your podcasts, on Apple Podcasts and Google Play, and MILB.com/podcast. You can check out all of our past episodes with our descriptions and all those types of fun things. And yeah, we'll get rolling with 3 strikes for this week's episode. Kicking things off, talking about the next big day on the Major League and Minor League calendar, and that is 2 weeks from today, when the Major League Baseball trade deadline arrives for 2019. And that already important day becomes way more important in 2019 and going forward, because that is the only one now. Used to be there was a non-waiver trade deadline, which was July 31st, and then a waiver trade deadline a month later, in which you could still make trades. It's a little bit more complicated. That one has been eliminated. So July 31st is it. That is the drop-dead trade date. Strike one this week, Sam. Trade deadline always means a lot for minor leaguers. It's kind of an anxious couple of weeks for guys. Give us your preview of what this trade deadline could look like this year.
Yeah, so I wrote a tool shed on this last Friday, kind of previewing it. And I do like that there is only one trade deadline. I think that's only going to improve what the trade line is like. But it also means, I don't know, I'm interested to see what it means in terms of teams making calls on whether they're buyers or sellers. I was kind of hopeful that it would mean more teams would be buyers. Without that extra cushion of another month, you have to make a decision. Okay, we're going to go for it. I haven't quite seen that play out yet, but we haven't really had any major trades happen quite yet. Since I wrote it, I mentioned the Baltimore Orioles as being a selling team. Of course, the Orioles are going to try to sell whatever they can. They just don't really have the assets to turn like a Manny Machado trade that they had last year. The one they had was really Andrew Cashner, who they traded to the Red Sox quite quickly after I wrote that story for a couple of really low-level players, and it's going to be years before we find out if that trade works out. But what is that going to mean for some other clubs? We're going to find out exactly 2 weeks from now. So in under 2 weeks from where you guys have heard this, I think the trade market is definitely going to pick up. In terms of organizations that have the best chance to really improve their farm system, and that's the lens we have to look at this through, I would say the San Francisco Giants are at the top of that list. The Giants have kind of been pegged as a seller to begin the season. They made a lot of aggressive moves in the past, but just have not been able to get over that hump. Nobody really expected them to compete with the Dodgers in the NL West, or sticking in that division, the Rockies potentially in the wild card race, the loaded NL Central, the loaded NL East. Never really looked like they were going to be competing for a playoff spot. That has come to fruition. They're not there. So Madison Bumgarner could be traded as a rental. Everybody kind of expects him to. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. What do you get for Madison Bumgarner? We'll have to see. He is obviously a proven postseason talent. He's not at the same level he was 2-3 years ago in terms of regular season production, but he's not going to shrink from the big spotlight. He's going to be dependable down the stretch. Almost every competing team now could use a starting pitcher. There's no doubt about that. So I think the competition for him could drive up the price. I'm a little surprised nobody's bidden for him yet, or at least put in a bid that the Giants have found acceptable. But where the Giants farm system is right now, it's pretty much Joey Bart, Elliot Ramos, Marco Luciano, and depending on some of the other names in there, that's about it. This is not a farm system at a place right now where it needs to be if it's going to be rebuilding, if it's going to be set around its minor league talent. Not quite there. So they need to make some trades to kind of bulk that up. Adding Hunter Bishop in the draft was a good step towards that direction. Trading a Bumgarner is going to be big. If they can trade Will Smith, I think Will Smith, their closer, actually will get a probably bigger package than Bumgarner. Although maybe not. I don't know. They're both rentals. We'll have to see. Will Smith is a better pitcher this season. It fills his role better. Again, any contending team is going to need help in the bullpen. I can think of several that need it right away. And I think that competition is going to drive up the price on Will Smith. Sam Dyson, Tony Watson, Reyes Moranta, also bullpen pieces, not going to get the same price that Will Smith will, but available for trade. And, we thought we had the age of the bullpen in the past, and teams have paid through the nose to get relievers. Be interested to see what prices they're willing to pay for those. Are any of these going to be, franchise building trades? I don't think we're quite there just because they are rentals. But the Giants farm system should be significantly better a month from now if they make some of these swaps than it is currently. Another one we're looking at is the Toronto Blue Jays. Blue Jays, they were always going to be in a rebuilding year. We actually had them as the sixth best farm system in baseball coming into the year. I know some other places had them higher. I know some other places had them lower. We settled at sixth, basically because they have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's now graduated. Bo Bichette is knocking on the door. Nate Pearson has only helped his stock this year. Jordan Groshans has been really good when he's healthy. Eric Pardinho is starting to get going. Kevin Biggio has graduated to the majors. It is a good farm system. The pipeline has worked out well, I would say, in 2019. But they're still not there yet in terms of being major league ready and major league ready for competition in the AL East against the likes of the Yankees, Rays, and Red Sox. So Marcus Stroman, might be the time to deal him. He's got one more year of arbitration team control beyond this one, so you're basically getting him for a year and a half. Good young pitcher. This is like a type of deal that we think about maybe like Chris Archer last year. Archer had a little bit more years of control, but he brought back Austin Meadows, Tyler Glasnow, and Shane Baz. Are other teams going to be willing to make that same deal that the Pirates did, especially seeing how that's worked out for the Rays? Probably not. But that's the type of level level of talent we're talking here, and that's what the Blue Jays should be aiming for. If they can add three guys of that mix into, next to Groshans, Pardinho at the lower levels, or next to, Pearson, Bo Bichette at the upper levels, this Blue Jay system can take another jump even after graduating Vlad. So that'll be really, really interesting to see. New York Mets is a team I'll throw out there real quick. The Mets, we're hopeful to be competing this year. They haven't quite got there, obviously. And their farm system obviously took a big hit by letting go of Jared Kelenic, Justin Dunn as well. They've graduated Pete Alonso, which is great. They've kind of replaced him amongst their top 100 ranks with Anthony Kay. They were hoping to trade Zach Wheeler. He's now on the injured list. It'll be interesting to see if they're willing to part ways with Noah Syndergaard. I don't think they will be, but Syndergaard could definitely get a haul back and really inject some talent into that Mets system. We'll be keeping an eye on that one. And then some of the other ones quick. Miami Marlins should be looking to trade no matter what. Don't really think they have the pieces. Maybe Miguel Rojas, who has been really, really good defensively, could help a team in need of a shortstop. The Mariners, when are we not talking about the Mariners in trade talks? They've already moved away Edwin Encarnacion and Jay Bruce. Maybe somebody like Mike Leake or Dee Gordon gets involved there. We'll have to see. But nothing really earth-shattering from the Mariners. I don't think we can expect that. The Tigers, Maybe they move Shane Green to kind of help their rebuilding efforts. Lord knows they could kind of use it. Riley Green has been a good addition in the draft, but otherwise Casey Mize is hurt. Matt Manning is continuing to help, but they need kind of that next level to make a jump. We had them at 15th. I don't see any reason to put them in the top 10 right now, even with the good first half that Mize has had. And the Kansas City Royals, another team that's kind of in the back half of the farm systems right now, and some of their top prospects haven't had great seasons. MJ Melendez, Nick Prado, Sully Matias, thinking of those guys. Adding Bobby Witt Jr. was great in the draft, and he certainly helps them. But if they're willing to trade Whit Merrifield, and I don't think they will be because they just signed him, but he's all-star level, obviously. He can play second base. He can play the outfield. They just signed him to an extension that is extremely team-friendly. Any team would be willing to take that on. They could get a major haul, I think, for Whit Merrifield if they really want to inject talent to the minor league system. The problem is they'd be punting. They would basically be saying, we don't think we will contend in the remainder of Merrifield's contract. Don't quite see that. But if that happens, that could be the trade of this deadline period. So a couple of things to look out for in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure other teams will be sellers as we get closer and they really decide, hey, we're not going for it. But the way things stand as of when I wrote this last Friday, those are the ones that could really help their farm systems with some good deals here in the next 2 weeks.
Strike two this week, we had a couple of big promotions of 2018 first-round draft selections, college guys who've moved up to the AA level already. Trevor Larnach in the Minnesota Twins organization, the Oregon State product, is up with AA Pensacola. And Stetson product, Logan Gilbert in the Seattle Mariners system, is now up with AA Arkansas. Big moves for guys who were having really good years already this season, Sam.
Yeah, these were guys who were both taken in the top 20 picks. Gilbert was taken 14th overall in 2018. Larnach was taken 20th overall. I'll start with Larnach just because he was doing incredibly well. Class A advanced Fort Myers. This was kind of the path we always believed he was set out for. I wrote a couple weeks ago about prospect promotions that were on the horizon, and he was definitely on that list because college bat, doing really well at the Class A advanced level. At the time he was promoted, he was leading the FSL in average and OPS at 316 and 842. Those may not look great, again, for an advanced bat like his, but the FSL is extremely pitcher-friendly. So he's showing a good hit tool for him from the left side. Not too much power yet, but he did have 26 doubles, so he is sticking in the gaps. Be interested to see what happens to that power when he gets out of the FSL. Thing to watch with him is what's going to happen with him defensively. He primarily played right field with Fort Myers. Now he moves to Pensacola and is joining a team that already has Alex Kirilloff, who has played a good amount of right field, obviously. Kirilloff, when he was coming off the injury after missing all of April, played a good amount of first base. Now, are they going to rotate the two? Are they going to have Larnach, who played some left field? Are they going to move him to left field? His above-average arm plays in right. That's not really an issue here. It's just how are they going to make that rotation work? Is it going to be a rotation, or is Larnach going to be stuck in left and Kirilloff in right? Good problem to have for sure. Their first game, Larnach was in left, Kirilloff was in right. They have the DH option, obviously, being an AL organization. So how are they going to cycle those two guys through? That'll be really interesting to watch. For Gilbert, the Mariners kind of surprisingly took the slow road with him, at least to begin the year. They started him out at Class A West Virginia, and he did what a college pitcher should do, at least of his caliber. Had a 1.59 ERA in 5 starts there, struck out 36 batters in 22 and 2/3 innings. They bumped him up after only those 5 starts, moves up to Modesto, is dominant there, as dominant as we could ever expect a pitcher to be in a hitter-friendly environment. It's kind of funny to talk about these two guys. Larnach did well with the bat in a pitcher-friendly circuit. Gilbert did well in a hitter-friendly circuit as a pitcher, but he had a 1.73 ERA with 73 strikeouts and 62 in the 3rd innings. Probably should have been in the Cal League all year long. But now gets the bump to AA. So on one hand, it looks cool that he has moved to his 3rd level of the season. It looks like they're moving him quick. Really, he's on the track he probably always should have been. He's got 3 above average pitches. His fastball could be considered a plus pitch. His slider and changeup are really good. The curveball is also there to round out the arsenal. He has shown really good control this year with only 18 walks in 85 innings between his two spots. This is where you start to get challenged at Double-A. You're going up against more patient hitters, guys who are going to hit mistakes much better. What happens to him when he moves to the Texas League and faces the toughest hitters he's ever faced in his career? We'll have to watch out for that. But he will get a handful of starts there at Double-A and round out his first full season. And if he does well there, then his stock will skyrocket even more than it is currently. He's number 68 overall, according to MLB.com, after starting the year outside the top 100. Wouldn't be surprised to see him climb even a little bit more when they update the list again at the end of the month.
And strike three this week to round out our opening segment. We've already got some really impressive performers from the 2019 draft, talking about Logan Gilbert and Trevor Larnach, who were first-rounders a year ago. Already some guys from this season's draft who have blown up to get their professional careers started. Sam, who are some of the names that have really stuck out to you so far?
Yeah, so funny enough, the couple of batters that stood out to me, they're 4 of the top 8 picks, and I'll run through them real quick. Andrew Vaughn with the White Sox hit so well in the AZL as expected. He was probably the best actual bat in the draft. Hit so well in the AZL, hitting 600 over 15 plate appearances that they already pretty good, going 9 for 16, which that's not how that works. It says he's hitting 600, but I think the at-bats and plate appearances are switched here. He went 9 for 15. Anyway.
Hey, man, I majored in broadcasting. Don't ask me.
Yeah, he's already at Class A Kannapolis anyway, and doing quite well there, hitting 333 with a 947 OPS in his first 50 plate appearances there. So he's performing as well as we thought. Wouldn't be surprised to see him end the year at Winston-Salem. Riley Green in the Tiger system, he's already moved up. Now, he's much younger. He was a high school player. He's already moved up to Class A short season Connecticut in the Tiger system, doing quite well with them. He flirted with the cycle the other night. He's already got a home run for them. He has an OPS above 1,000 everywhere he's hit. One other guy, C.J. Abrams in the Padres system, as if the Padres need another really good hitter and another really good prospect. C.J. Abrams still in the AZL, unlike the other two guys I've mentioned so far, but in 21 games is hitting .427. His game on July 15th was the first time he did not get a hit in a game. He opened his career on a 20-game hitting streak, which was insane. He's showing mostly gap power right now. He's got 11 doubles, 4 triples compared to 2 home runs, 8 strikeouts versus 6 walks. He's stolen 12 bases, looking extremely toolsy as a shortstop for the Padres. They have Fernando Tatis Jr. at that position for a long time, and Manny Machado at the third base position for a long time. But much lower is this 18-year-old who's already tearing things apart in the AZL. I would like to see him get challenged with a move off the complex at some point. He's not really learning much if he's hitting .427 in 21 games. But you can't predict this either. You can't predict a 20-game hitting streak for anybody, never mind an 18-year-old just getting his feet wet at the lower levels. So really cool to see him. One other name I'll throw out there as well is Quinn Priester. This was not a year for high school pitching, excuse me. Not a lot of guys getting taken in the first round out of high school, whether that's just a down class or whether that's apprehension for taking young arms because we see the propensity for them getting hurt. I think it's going to take a few years until we see that. But Quinn Priester has been sent to the GCL and he's getting longer stints than guys normally get at that level. He pitched 5 innings in his last game on Monday, struck out 7, only allowed 3 hits over 5 scoreless innings. They're letting him go a little bit, which is interesting. I want to know how long that's going to go for. But so far, 14 strikeouts, only 3 walks in 11 1/3 innings in the GCL. For being such a young arm, what is he going to be able to do? How long of a leash are they going to give him? We'll be keeping an eye on that. But to take off the way he has been really cool in a year when we thought we wouldn't see much out of high school pitching. So keep an eye on those. How many did I mention? 4 guys coming out of the draft. And then we're still waiting for Adley Rutschman to make his debut. I think he was sick for a while. They said he was going to go to the GCL. I know he's been down there, has yet to appear in a game. Once he does, I'm sure we'll talk about it, we'll write about it. But he is yet to make his pro debut. So every day I'm checking the GCL Orioles box score, and I hope you are too.
And that'll do it for Three Strikes on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Coming up, we're going to head to the Arizona Diamondbacks system, where the 7th-ranked prospect in that organization, Alek Thomas, who was busted out this year, second-round selection last year out of high school, is slashing 307, 391, 490 for Class A Kane County this year. And Sam got a chance to catch up with Alek Thomas next.
We're joined this week on the Show Before the Show podcast by Arizona number 7 prospect Alek Thomas, coming to us from the Kane County Cougars. Alek, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. One thing I wanted to get into with you here real quick, because when we were setting up this interview, you said you were getting to the ballpark. One thing we don't talk to guys a lot about, but they always mention, is getting into a rhythm, finding a routine for them. So now that you are there, what is your routine? What is something you've settled into in your first full season?
Well, right now I get to the ballpark around 1:45, somewhere around there, and chill out for a little bit, make sure I'm there, make sure I'm clocked in, and you don't want to be, the straggler coming in late, so make sure you're early at the ballpark. And then the next thing is just we have early cages, and usually just get your routine in, and that's, for me, that's like one-handed drills and making sure my hands are ready for batting practice, and so I'm easing into batting practice.
Yeah, and in batting practice, what is kind of your strategy? What is something you work on? Some guys focus in on going the other way, trying to flex that part of their game. Some guys just focus up the middle. When you're taking your hacks pre-game, what are you trying to do in terms of working things out so you are ready for game time?
For me, I think I've grown to learn like I'm best whenever I hit the ball hard the other way. So in batting practice, I just try to hit backside homers and see how that works. And usually it works out pretty good for the game. So whenever I start pulling the ball, it's like, all right, well, I should probably stop doing this because it might translate over to the game. And sometimes it has, where I just pound the ball straight to the first baseman, second baseman. So I think it's best whenever I try to hit backside home runs. So you still have juice, and it's the other way, so it works out pretty well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you're kind of in a unique situation as well, in that, like we said, you're currently with the Kane County Cougars. You are an Illinois guy. You're a Chicago guy. I looked it up on Google Maps beforehand. It's about an hour and a half from your high school to where Geneva, Illinois is, where the Cougars play. What is it like being back in the home state? And you don't have to really get comfortable to an area that you don't know. You know it at least a little bit. What is it like at playing at least this close to home at this point in your career?
Well, I'll tell you this, my tickets, I always have to leave a lot of tickets because there's always someone that wants to come to the game. But it's nice being home. It's nice knowing that I have a fan base here with my family and girlfriend and all that, and friends as well. So it's always nice to have that, feel like you're back at home. So it's pretty nice being close.
Yeah, and I know some people go through this in college. You try to figure out what's like a safe distance to be from home so your parents aren't always checking up on you, but also you are close to home. How much are your parents coming by? I know your dad is obviously busy with the White Sox. We'll get into that a little bit later, but what is it like having them that close and trying to be starting your professional career but also that close to home?
It's pretty nice. I mean, my mom comes to maybe a good amount of the games for the home games whenever we're home, and my dad comes whenever he has an off day, or he'll at least try to make the 11 o'clock game if he's got a game at 7 o'clock. So it works out pretty well. My sister plays tennis, so my mom's busy with her, but they don't always get a chance to make it out. But it's always nice when they do.
Yeah, no, it's better to have that option than not, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
One thing we wanted to bring you on the podcast to discuss as well is you're just coming off the Futures game, which is an honor for any prospect, obviously, but especially somebody like you who was just taken in the second round last year to already be at this place where you are going to a showcase like that, getting to play in a big league stadium in Cleveland. Now that you are a little bit more removed from it, it's been about a week and a half. How do you kind of reflect back on that experience?
Just for that experience, it just shows how much that I need to keep working, because there's always those guys out there that are possibly better than you. So you got to keep on working. I think it was a big eye opener to see all those guys and see how far, maybe you're ahead or maybe you're behind some of those guys. So I think it was good to see all that and eye opener to keep on working hard, because there's always those guys there.
Yeah, and when you mentioned guys who are going to be better than you, certainly older than you, who did you seek out specifically? I know Dalton Varsho was another D-backs guy. You guys haven't really been teammates yet, but who were you looking to at least talk to or see in the cages with the NL? What were some of the other guys there you wanted to see the most or talk to the most? I'm pretty good friends with Gavin Lux, so it was good to see him. There you go.
And he's having terrific season. But other than him, I don't think there's anybody that, I was really trying to, see and stuff. But playing against Luis Robert, I've watched him, when I'm a White Sox fan still. So I watched him, and seeing him, playing on the same field as him was pretty cool. And because I've seen him in spring training, I've took, infield, outfield with him before. So it was pretty cool seeing that, and he's having a good season this season too, so it's pretty cool. But other than those two, I knew a lot of those guys. I've seen what they've been doing, but I think nobody really I was really looking forward to see. So I think that's all I got for you.
No, that's pretty good. I bet getting in to check in on Robert and what he's been able to do this year was interesting to see how he's grown, because obviously he's had such a strong season. But when you were talking to Gavin Lux, he's somebody who is at AAA now, has seen all these levels, and was another high pick, has gone through basically what you did these first two seasons. What did he kind of tell you about what minor league baseball is beyond where you've been so far and what you have to look forward to?
I'm not sure if we talked too in-depth about that, but I think one thing that we kind of related on was when we do strike out, it comes in bunches. I'm not sure why, but it does. But we had that kind of similarity, which was funny. And because we don't necessarily strike out too often, but when it does, it comes in bunches. And usually, if we do strike out, maybe there's a hit in there, two hits, which is funny. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah, no, there you go. It's good to know that there's somebody else like you out there when you're going.
Yeah.
But we should mention you only have 60 strikeouts and 296 at bats. You're doing pretty well for yourself on the contact side of the game this season. But this is your first full season. Having a dad in the game, having been to spring training before, there's a cool video out there of you making a catch at the spring training complex with the White Sox before you went pro. You've been around the game a lot, but what has surprised you most about having to play every day and kind of grind out a season here through the first close to 3 months, three and a half months really, of your first full season?
I think just how you approach the game and how you need to differ your approach whenever a pitcher's throwing a certain pitch or anything like that. I think that's the biggest thing. And also, taking some of your, like some of the games that you had in high school where you thought you were the man and all that, you kind of have to take that same attitude into here, because, the game's tough and can't get down on yourself. And then this game's a lot to do with the mental side. So I think taking some of that attitude and putting it here is the main thing.
Yeah, and when do you feel like that kind of paid off? When was the first time you really said, hey, I can be as dominant here as I was in high school? Maybe not quite that level, obviously, but my stuff will play here. Was it something you realized last year? Did it take until this year? At what point did you feel like, hey, I can be really, really good even here in the lower minors?
I'm not sure when it happened. I think it just naturally happened, to be honest with you. I think I've always had that in me. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it just naturally happened. And then I figured it out when someone said something, and I was like, oh, well, I guess so. Because whenever they ask me, oh, what's you got? I'm like, I don't know. You ain't got nothing. You know what I mean? It's just something like that.
You mean in terms of talking about opposing pitching and thinking like, oh, they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's the complete opposite. I'm like, he's got the nastiest stuff. He's got that. But sometimes it's like, I don't know, man. You have to just figure it out. I didn't even know I hit a changeup. I thought it was a fastball.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and let's kind of talk about your draft process. You, like we mentioned, you were a second-round pick in 2018, coming out of Mount Carmel High School in Chicago. You played on some of the showcase circuits. I think you played a little bit for Team USA. But going into the draft, what were your kind of expectations for, given what you have shown so far in pro ball? You probably could have been a first-round pick. You fall to the D-backs in the second round. What were you thinking going into those first couple picks last year?
Well, I like me and my dad. We always set a high bar. High bar, and so for me, I thought I was going to be a first. I thought I had the first round potential, but I guess not everyone thought that. But so I'm not really sure how to put it, but I fell to the second round, so now I gotta show people why I should have been a first rounder. And that's what I try to do every day, just show why I should have been where I thought I should have been, or why I should be in this position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and how do you kind of use that as motivation? Is it something you write down somewhere? Is it is it something you constantly think about? I mean, how does that manifest itself as motivation for you?
I think when I see some of the guys that we play against, I mean, it kind of gets me angry a little bit, because what I could have been, or what I could have gotten, that's what happens to me. So when that happened, right after the draft, I was happy or whatever. Then straight after it, going home, I had just a sour taste in my mouth. I was like, man, that's crazy. I can't believe that happened. And I was mad, and I continue to be mad. But I mean, I'm happy. I'm grateful to be in this game and to be, a professional baseball player. But I think the Diamondbacks gave me a chance, and I'm going to ride with it. So I'm grateful for the D-backs picking me and all that. But still got a chip on my shoulder. Still going to go out here and play angry and all that. So
yeah. No, I mean, that's one thing about being an athlete. Guys use whatever they can to motivate them to be, as good as they can be. But going back to that draft process, how much do you feel like being a Chicago kid kind of played into that? And I only mean that in terms of being from a cold weather place. You're not coming from Florida or Texas or Southern California, where these guys are playing year round. It's a little bit more difficult. You were a 3-sport guy. So how much do you feel like that entered the equation when you were going through?
I'm not sure how much, Midwest really affects it. I mean, I know people say how it affects it a lot. These California, the Georgia guys get all, or Florida guys get all the, recognition, and the Midwest guys kind of are pushed to the side. I'm not sure why that is, because we got some good athletes here. I'm not really sure how that is. I thought football would help, multi-sport guy, and played basketball too. And you know what? It barely helped. I guess some of these Midwest guys don't really get the appreciation, they deserve. So hopefully, I set the tone a little bit for us. And, we got a guy last year who I know, Quinn Priester, went pretty high, and he's from the Midwest pitcher. But it's a different thing than being a pitcher than a hitter in the Midwest. So I'm not sure really how it plays and what people think, but
yeah, no, I mean, between yourself and Jaron Kelenic being a Wisconsin guy,
right? Same with that.
Yeah, the reputation might be changing a little bit here going forward, but having a dad in the game and somebody who understands being around baseball this much, what was a tip you feel like you had coming into pro ball that kind of gave you the advantage? What's something your dad warned you about, or something you knew about just being around the White Sox so much as you did as a kid, that has translated so far?
As soon as you get to the complex, everyone's on the same field as you. So you got to show out. And one thing that he's always instilled in me that I mentioned before is that there's always going to be someone better than you, so you got to act like it and continue to work hard and continue to push and strive to be better at everything in all aspects of everything.
And I feel like we should mention this because we haven't quite yet. One of the reasons we want to bring you on this year is because you have been so good. You're hitting .307 with an .880 OPS, 8 homers, 8 stolen bases. But you've been specifically pretty good of late in your last 10 games. In July, you're hitting .415 with a 1.151 OPS. What have you done to kind of adjust back to the level and handle things so well of late? Because I feel like now is about the time when guys your age, being 19 years old, who are used to high school ball and maybe some summer ball, they start to fade because they're not used to playing 75-plus games. You're getting stronger as the season goes on. What's allowed you to do that? What adjustments are you making here?
I mean, it's a game of adjustments and making adjustments almost every day. But I think the biggest thing is just having fun out there and just being yourself and not being someone that they want you to be. Just being yourself, going out there, having fun with the guys on your team. Got a good group of guys, and they make it fun every day. So I think that's the main reason why I've been pretty successful in these last couple games in July.
And as the season's gone on, when you're talking about making adjustments on adjustments, what have you seen about how opposing pitchers are pitching you, especially as they get more experience against you, and what do you feel like you're adjusting back to?
I think one part in the season I was sitting off speed and reacting to the fastball, and I think it was just one specific team that was doing that, like throwing way more off speed than I'm used to. But I think mainly pitchers right now that I've seen in West Michigan, they were throwing fastballs and changeups. I didn't really see any sliders or anything like that, so that was weird. But you got to make adjustments. Doesn't matter who it is. So.
No, that makes sense. And this Kane County team, you guys in the second half, talking about having fun. This second half so far, you guys are 16-8. How has this team kind of come together as the second half has gone on? What have you seen about what's been able to make you guys get off to such a better start here in the second half?
We have a good group of coaches. I think Vince Harrison's done a great job, and Micah Franklin, he's done a great job. And it's been great. Every time after the game, after a win, we have a little meeting or whatever you want to call it, and we just get rowdy and we just get crazy and we give out game balls and all that. So it's pretty cool atmosphere, and I love coming to the field with these guys, and it's pretty cool.
And we'll end on these two. First off, everything we've talked about is how you have been pretty consistent this year and built up stock, and people are definitely noticing you as the season goes on. No longer just a second rounder. You're kind of a must follow in the Midwest League. How do you feel like has that changed anything about you? Do you feel like more attention is being paid to you, whether it's through opposing teams or getting coverage, getting sense of the futures game? How do you kind of handle being a little bit more under the spotlight as the season goes on?
Well, first of all, I felt like I should have been in that spotlight before, but I like being under the radar guy, coming out from underneath and bursting out onto the scene, or whatever you want to call it. I like coming through the ranks and showing people why I should be where I think I should be. So that's how I take it, and that's how me, and my dad always talk about, like, we got to show these people who you are, and you're a Thomas. Show them what Thomas people do. So that's what we talked about.
There you go. Yeah, you guys should put that on bumper stickers. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And the last one will end on kind of a more fun note. At least it seems like a fun note. You were on the base paths. You came in as a pinch runner during the Futures game. So you were on the base paths when Taylor Trammell tried to steal home. First, what was your instant reaction? And two, do you think he was safe?
Unfortunately, I was not on base.
Oh,
but
you weren't?
I saw it. I don't think I was. No, I was definitely in the dugout, but I saw it. I was right there.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty safe on the review, but they called him out. It was crazy. I think he should have been safe. That would have been cool. That would have been a real cool moment for sure.
Yeah, no, I was there in Cleveland, and it sounded like the whole crowd was getting up for it, and that would have been a legendary moment. But that's all right.
Yeah, pretty ballsy right there for sure, especially on that stage and in one game.
Well, Alek Thomas, like we said, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck the rest of the way in Kane County between the games you're playing, with all the ticket requests you're getting, all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us, and best of luck the rest of the way.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Benjamin Hill joins us for episode 218, live from New York City. Hi, Ben.
Hello, Tyler, and hello, Sam, sitting to my left in room 4L.
You are back from a most recent and much closer and I would imagine easier road trip. Although I guess there's probably some challenges. You went to Syracuse, you went to Auburn, and we're going to talk about that trip. Did you drive those? I'm assuming you drove those, but like on the East Coast, you also have the option of taking a train, like a normal civilization, where some of us in the states out west don't really get that. What'd you do? How'd you get there?
Yeah, I mean, this trip was, in my mind, it was kind of like semi-official. It wasn't one of my big, longer itineraries. It was just a 2-night jaunt, Auburn and Syracuse. They're located less than an hour away. And really, it was motivated. I have a good friend of mine named Nando DeFino, who I met about 15 years ago in a comedy writing class, of all places. I mean, if you can believe it, I'm a pretty funny guy. But we become friends. Nando's actually he's a fantasy sports guy. He's made a living in that world for a long time. He currently is a managing editor for the Athletic, for their fantasy sports site. But anyhow, Nando is originally from Syracuse. I went there 5 years ago, and it was in the midst of this 10 stadium and 10-day trips, and I was just kind of, just trying to keep my head above water. And I didn't tell Nando I was going to be in Syracuse, and he was very offended and was like, "Benny, you were in Syracuse, you didn't tell me. I'm going to be your designated eater." And, he was very offended. For years, Nando has been being, "When are you coming to Syracuse, Benny? Benny hates Syracuse." And he kind of just created in his mind this narrative that I hated Syracuse and that I would never go there again. So this year I said, "Nando, let's just pick a weekend and we'll go." So this was my redemption tour with Nando with Syracuse. So we went to Auburn on Friday and Syracuse on Saturday, and had a good time. But, in a lot of ways, it was just kind of like a weekend hanging out with a friend, as much as it was, the full-on Ben's Biz road trip experience. It was kind of nice. I was able to get out of my routines. It wasn't like finishing the game, going back to the hotel room, doing all the work I usually do. I was like, I can wait until Monday. It was like half vacation, half trip.
Well, it wasn't like it was a random weekend either, though. You picked this one probably specifically to go to see the Syracuse Mets become the Syracuse Butter Sculptures.
Right. We were just looking at open weekends, and of course Auburn and Syracuse had to be home at the same time. And on top of that, I saw that Syracuse on July 13th would be playing as the Butter Sculptures, which is, unless you are a real New Yorker, and not a real New Yorker in the sense of
a real Western New Yorker.
Yeah, that's usually when someone says I'm a real New Yorker, they mean I'm from New York City. But unless you're a real Empire Stater, Butter Sculptures is a reference, kind of like the previous alternate identities that Syracuse has had, the salt potatoes, after the regional delicacy that is a salt potato, which is basically like potatoes boiled in salt. Last year, as you recall, and this is one of my favorites, they suited up as the devices in honor of the Brannick device, the foot measuring tool that everyone knows, but no one really knows the name of it. But that's a Brannick device, the thing you put your foot in at a shoe store. That was invented in the Syracuse area. So this year it was Butter Sculptures, and that is because the State Fair, the New York State Fair, a sprawling 13-day event, a massive undertaking, is located in Syracuse. In fact, very nearby the Mets, ballpark. And so they partnered with the New York State Fair on doing a night together and putting together an identity based on the New York State Fair. And what they came up with is Butter Sculptures, because at the State Fair every year in New York, there is a massive butter sculpture. it's unveiled before the fair, and it's like a big annual tradition. Like, this year's butter sculpture is this, and here's what the theme of it is. And they've been doing it since 1969. If you are from that area or even close to that area, then almost certainly you've gone to the state fair and the butter sculpture. You go check it out every year. It takes about 800 pounds of butter to make these things. I was doing a little research. It's been the same husband and wife team who've done the butter sculpture every year since 2002. So shout out to them. I forget their names. They have different last names, so maybe a more progressive butter sculpting couple, not as conservative as most butter sculptors have a reputation for being. So they became the butter sculptures, and I was there on Saturday night. And it was a fun night at the ballpark. The last time I had been in Syracuse, I can't remember what day it was, but it was kind of a dead weeknight. This time on a Saturday, a lot of energy, good crowd out. There's a bobblehead giveaway, a truly bizarre bobblehead featuring the mascot Scooch as a butter sculpture carrying butter. So you have a bobblehead featuring a mascot. So he's like all yellow because he's supposed to be a butter sculpture, and he's carrying butter. So it's very meta, very strange, a bobblehead. And he looks kind of dead-eyed and almost zombie-like in this bobblehead. It's a strange one for sure. But they had that, and they had, New York State Fair inspired food. And of course, I'll be writing about that in full. Nando was my designated eater. But they debuted the Amazing Burger, which was topped with fried pickles and cheese and pulled pork and boom boom sauce. That's another thing. If you're a Syracuse area person, you're all about the boom boom sauce. So they had that. They had, corn on the cob.
Wait, what kind of sauce is this?
It's boom boom sauce, Tyler.
It's made out of real boom boom.
It's made out of real boom booms. Organic, locally grown boom booms.
Free range boom boom. What's this like comprised of? Now I'm intrigued by this sauce. I'm a big sauce fan, but I don't know the sauce.
I'm embarrassed to say I do not know what is in boom boom sauce. I know it has a little bit of a kick to it. It's not like out and out spicy, but it has a bit of a kick. I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna look it up.
Sorry. We can look it up, and listeners, it's good to engage with the listenership, these wide body of individuals. I mean, they don't have wide bodies necessarily. I mean, a wide array of individuals all over the country. Some of you may be familiar with boom boom sauce. Hit us up at Twitter. I'm Ben's Biz. Email show before the show. What's that address again?
Podcast@milb.com.
Podcast@milb.com. I, of course, knew that. podcast@milb.com. I knew that. I was just making sure Sam knew it. And tell us about boom boom sauce.
Sounds like a good plan. Tell us about Auburn. Auburn is one of my favorite minor league identities, the Auburn Double Days, and that they are named after an apocryphal tale of the creation of baseball, which is that Abner Doubleday created the sport, who we now know did not create the sport and may never have really seen the sport in its incarnation. But they got a great logo and a great, kind of the creation of that story for a team identity is fun. But Auburn's got a good little setup. Tell us about that trip, or that element of the trip.
Yeah, that was Friday night, Auburn Double Days. One of the New York Penn League has become such a non-New York and Pennsylvania-based league in recent years, sprawling out and not just recently, but, sprawling to all sorts of other states, bigger markets, newer ballparks. Auburn is one of kind of the, along with places like Williamsport or Batavia, one of the more traditional markets in that league, a smaller town in central New York. I hadn't been there in 5 years, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, they're the Double Days because they're located near the Hall of Fame, and the Hall of Fame is located where it is because of Abner Doubleday, and he lived there. And then I look at the map, and I'm like, wait, Auburn's like 2 hours from the Hall of Fame.
Oh, really?
And so then I had to look into it further, and it turns out that Abner Doubleday's father was a member of Congress who lived in Auburn and represented Auburn in his district, and that Lil Abner, grew up in Auburn. So that is the.
I thought it was just the play on the words the whole time.
And then it helps too.
Yeah.
Auburn.
The fact there's actual history behind it.
Yeah, and so their mascot is just a
mustachioed man.
A guy with a big mustache, and there's no larger costume. It's just a head. So you have this like skinny, probably teenager, and with a big head. It's pretty one of the funnier, goofier mascots out there. But this is a city-owned team. There are not many teams in minor league baseball owned by the city. So they run it's a small market. The ballpark was built in 95, but is on the site of where the previous ballpark had been. It is a real small town, no frills atmosphere. The kind of organization that's doesn't have a big market to draw from and is just kind of trying to break even every year. Since the last time I was there, they put in artificial turf. They now have a local college. Was it Cuyahoga Community College, something like that, now shares the field with them, so it's getting a lot more use. They have artificial turf. There's some improvements along those lines. Party deck down the right field line, I believe, was new or at least refurbished, that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, these are just some bleachers and a small grandstand and a very low-key, affordable, pretty relatively bare bones minor league organization. So if you like more traditional minor league baseball, then Auburn is really good for that. And it's what I like about minor league baseball so much is that within an hour you can be in Syracuse and be at a big AAA stadium, or you can be in Auburn, which is a much more rustic and intimate environment.
All right. Well, going from New York, going back to Texas, in your previous trip, you're still wrapping some stuff up from that, and you had an on-the-road story this week. Back from Amarillo, which you've had a couple stories from so far, but it is a new park and it is a new minor league situation, so there's going to be lots to come from that and lots we can learn. But one of the things you did about it was the history of baseball in Amarillo, specifically when it comes to the Amarillo Gold Sox. What can you tell us about some of the conversations you had there about the Sox and the history?
Yeah, I was in Amarillo at this point almost a month ago, but when I'm at a place for 3 days, I just can't help getting the material. I'm just like a sponge. I've had so much to write about. Yeah, the most recent and I think final Amarillo story, outside of my Designated Eater Amarillo food wrap-up, which actually appeared on the site today. Check out all my work at MILB.com/BensBiz. I talked to a guy named Mike Higgins, who in 1976 was the PR director for the Amarillo Gold Sox, who were the previous Texas League entity in the Amarillo's previous Texas League team before the Sod Poodles. They played their last season in 1982. They played at Potter County Memorial Stadium, which is only about 2 miles from Hodgetown, the new home of the Sod Poodles. But whereas Hodgetown is downtown and, big gleaming new ballpark, this facility is much more no frills, shall we say, and it's in a real bad shape now, barely in use. And it's like near stockyards and like a rodeo expo center. It's in a much more kind of desolate, open, kind of a little bit of a grimy part of town. And so just seeing the stadium, you just think like, oh, wow, that was I'm sure a different era of baseball and a different kind of operation. It was that era, where teams were bought and sold, where the new owner would just assume the debt. And that was like the transaction. It was that kind of era of baseball. So I talked to this guy, Mike Higgins, and, he just told me some stories about what it was like working for that team. Some of the promotions they did, how cheap some of the owners were down, at various times, including, a guy who, to feed the team between games of a doubleheader, got day-old chicken from a local KFC because then he didn't have to pay for it, so it was that kind of thing. So he worked for the team. He was also a team photographer for the previous iteration of Amarillo's minor league baseball, the Giants. He had a newspaper write-up from the last game of the 1970 season between Dallas-Fort Worth and Amarillo. And the newspaper article talks about how vandals had broken onto the field the night before and turned on the sprinklers and flooded the field. And through a lot of hard work, and they even brought in a helicopter. There was about an hour delay, but they actually played the game. What that article does not say, because it probably wasn't known yet at the time, that it was the players on both teams met in a bar that night, just incidentally, and they were like, this is the last game of the season, doesn't mean anything, like we don't want to play it. So they assumedly, probably drunkenly, broke into the ballpark and flooded it themselves. And one of the players who did that, he was on Dallas-Fort Worth, was Ron Shelton, who used that caper, to inspire the scene in Bull Durham. And it all happened in Amarillo.
Yeah, there you go.
So there you go. It's a story along those lines, just kind of looking back and kind of comparing and contrasting, what AA Texas League baseball was in Amarillo in the 70s and early 80s compared to what it is now, and it is, kind of night and day.
And last piece this week, which is a big one as it is annually, the new Topps Pro debut for the third season in a row has a Ben's Biz insert set, and this probably never gets any less cool for you, Ben, but tell us about the 2019 edition.
Yeah, it came out last month, but I was so immersed with preparing for my trip and just everything going on that it wasn't until yesterday I really went out and fully promoted this. This year's it's Topps Pro debut, a minor league themed set. This is the third year in a row I've had an insert set within it. This year's set has 5 cards, and it's just a really cool process. It's pretty low key. Topps is just kind of like, who do you want to feature this year? And I pick some photos and write up a little back card bio, and they're almost always like, cool, let's do it. So I've had a lot of kind of editorial freedom to give cards through these 3 years to people and things and places that usually don't get cards. So this year's set, it does include me. I guess it kind of has to. In my mind, I'm a narcissist, but it includes me in Grand Junction last year when I finally visited every affiliated ballpark. Grand Junction, Suplizio Field was the last on my list. So it's just a goofy photo of me in a jersey.
Doesn't have your face though.
No,
it's just your back.
It's just my back, and
with your logo.
And I'm
your face,
flexing. It's a goofball thing. It's not like the year before where I was shirtless. I can't do a shirtless pick every year. I gotta I gotta keep that content kind of minimal. Leave them one more. Also, Roscoe the Rooster, one of my favorite mascots. He is a local amateur wrestler when he's not at the ballpark, and he talks. So I just felt like I had to give a little pub to Roscoe. Picked a ballpark card. It's a photo I took when I was visiting McCormick Field, home of the Asheville Tourists. I love that ballpark. Built in 1924, a true classic. There's a local there's a stadium on a hill overlooking McCormick Field Memorial Stadium, which hosts amateur sports. There was a lacrosse game going on when I went in there. But that card features a picture I took from the top bleacher of Memorial Stadium overlooking McCormick Field, just trying to show it in all its beauty. Probably my favorite is I got Peg Johnston a card. She's this kind of feisty, no-nonsense retired school teacher who is a huge Cleveland Indians fan, keeps score at every game she goes to. And, she goes to Mahoning Valley Scrappers games, Lake County Captains games, Akron Rubber Ducks games, Columbus Clippers games, over 100 games a year, all in the Cleveland Indians farm system. And I did a story on her last year, and she has her own card, Peg Johnston. So I was a big fan of that one. And finally, Mr. Celery, who I just think is one of the most interesting characters in minor league baseball. Wilmington Blue Rocks. He only emerges when the team scores a run and has become sort of improbably a huge part of that team's identity and branding. I mean, they're called the Blue Rocks. Their mascot is a moose, and they're defined more than anything else by celery. Only in minor league baseball. So that's Topps 2019 Ben's Biz insert set. It's part of Topps Pro debut. You can purchase packs and boxes online and also at your finest local hobby shops and retailers of that nature. If you do want me to sign any of the cards, I always feel like I'm bragging just by even saying this, but people do contact me. DM me on Twitter at Ben's Biz. I'll give you the address, and it always makes me feel really special. Sign a card, and then I can lord it over, some of the coworkers.
Just don't forge Peg Johnston's signature.
No, but
don't sign over her.
That is one thing, is sometimes people send me all the Ben's Biz cards to sign. And I always feel weird putting my signature over just because it's a Ben's Biz card, signing cards that aren't me. And I always feel like, well, I guess they want me to do it because they sent it over. I most prefer to sign the cards with me on them, but really I'll sign any card you send me. I don't care. Send me a Chili Davis 1986 Topps. I'll sign it.
Get one of those original Honus Wagners that's worth like $7 million. And
yeah.
It's a Ben, and
I'll put my signature right on that for you.
Fusing of two eras of baseball. Benjamin Hill's on Twitter at Ben's Biz. You can find everything Ben at milb.com/Ben'sBiz. And thanks, man. We'll do it again next week.
Yes, we will. And I'm already looking forward to it. Starting at the end of this sentence, I will begin looking forward to next week.
Excitement beginning now. Before we get to our MILB.TV predictions, what are we predicting?
We're predicting.
Nope, not predictions. That is not what this is. Our MILB.TV selections, we'll say, for this weekend. Sam has a point to clarify about a moment earlier in the show.
Yeah, so for those of you who listened to the Alek Thomas interview, and I hope you have, I can't imagine you would skip over that to then get to us exclusively. But anyway, at the end of the Alek Thomas interview, you hear me ask him about, hey, you were on the base paths when Taylor Trammell tried stealing home. What did you see? And he very politely and very calmly said, I don't think I was on the base paths. I was watching from the dugout. The reason I brought it up, if you go to the box score, it says Alek Thomas was entered into the game as a pinch runner right before Taylor Trammell stole home. So I was going off that. I was not confused. I was not getting I was getting incorrect information. I'm not doubting what Alek Thomas said. I just don't want you to think I'm a crazy person who invented him being on base. I did my research. The research could have been wrong. Not doubting what he said. Just don't want to think or have you guys think I'm off my gourd in some way and I'm making things up. So that's where I got it from. His answer was great. That's why we kept it in. Really interesting stuff. Really glad we got him. But yeah, just wanted to clarify that before we move on to other stuff.
So with that, we will move on to our MILB.TV predictions. Or either way. What are you watching this weekend?
Yeah, so we mentioned before Logan Gilbert going up to the Arkansas Travelers. Actually, Logan Gilbert is slated to make his debut on Wednesday. That's already happened. If you can go back in time and watch that on MLB TV, or if you have access to the archives, which you do if you're a subscriber, go back and watch that, assuming it went well and he carried his success from Modesto to Arkansas. That being said, that Arkansas team, you're going to want to watch almost on any night of the week. Seattle system is greatly improved, a lot through trades for sure. But as things stand right now, 5 of their top 7 prospects are with the Travelers. Justin Dunn is actually scheduled to pitch on Thursday, so if you listen to this before that game, you can watch the game on Thursday. But Justin Dunn is there, Logan Gilbert is there, Justice Sheffield has been sent down to Arkansas and is kind of refining himself there. Evan White, another futures gamer, he's there, which is really neat. And Kyle Lewis is kind of getting back on the horse himself at AA Arkansas, 2016 first rounder. Lots of talent on that Arkansas Travelers team. They have been successful. They will continue to be successful if they keep adding guys like Logan Gilbert here in the second half. I think they have a chance to really go for it in that Texas League. So watch that talent together any night you get the chance. Even on a night that Sheffield, Dunn, or Gilbert aren't pitching, you're going to want to watch White in the field and at the plate, and you're going to want to watch Kyle Lewis and check in on his progress as he comes off some off years the first couple of seasons in the Mariner system. So watch the Travelers any chance you get. Tyler, what are you going to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I'm going to be in the Pacific Coast League, and I'm going to rip this information off from our good buddy Alex Friedman. Quote, since joining the @OKC_Dodgers, if you want to give him a follow, June 27, this is Gavin Lux's slash line, 500, 550, 926. It's a 1476 OPS. He leads all players in the major leagues and domestic minor leagues in all 4 categories during that span. Gavin Lux is ridiculous. I don't know the exact math on this, but I think like 100% of my stories in recent weeks have been about the Oklahoma City Dodgers. So whether it's Gavin Lux or last night it was Will Smith, DJ Peters is on that team now. Connor Joe is a fun player who's on that team. Matt Beatty's been on that team. They've had so many guys.
Justin May is on that team.
Justin May is on that team. So many guys this year who have jumped up, made their big league debuts, are currently at Oklahoma City. Gavin Lux is the cream of the crop right now, and he is doing things at AAA that, as Will Smith put it to me last night in our phone conversation, he said there's hot, and then there's whatever Gavin Lux is right now. Like, that's how good he's been at the AAA level. So Oklahoma City, you can catch the Dodgers on MILB.TV this weekend. Another plug for that team, which is somewhat a selfish one for our purposes. But if you have not gotten a chance, and they are home against San Antonio this weekend, by the way, from Friday through Sunday. If you've never listened to our buddy Alex Friedman do a broadcast, that's another reason why you should be tuning in. Because Alex is one of those guys who, like, when I watch an OKC home game on MILB.TV, I'm like, I'm glad I got this in now because he's going to be in the big leagues in who knows how short a span of time. Alex is awesome. Gavin Lux has been awesome for Oklahoma City, and that team is absurd, and you should probably check them on MILB.TV.
Hear, hear.
So that's it. That'll do it for this week's episode of The Show Before the Show. You can get in touch with us, podcast at MILB.com. I'm on Twitter at Tyler Mon. Sam is on Twitter at Sam Dykstra, MILB. Benjamin Hill at Ben's Biz. And again, all of Ben's stuff now is on one concise page, MILB.com/Ben's Biz. You can find that all there. And until we meet again next week, enjoy another week watching baseball. We'll talk to you then.